Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Rules of Engagement. Of course, this episode is a little bit earlier than normal. We had a very fast winter exhibition match, but it's still going to be a great episode. Today, we're going to be going over Feast versus MVP from round 1 of the MLG Winter Championships at Dallas. And a lot of people talk about the best matchups from that term. They talk about the Life vs. Last series, Life vs. Pult, Life vs. Flash, Life vs. Anyone, MC vs. Innovation. A lot of great series there, but a lot of people overlook Feast vs. MVP. That was a really interesting series. Yes, it was in the round of 32. Yes, it was a Korean versus a non-Korean, but it was still an amazing series. We're going to go over today, starting with game number 1. We're going to talk about game number 2, and then game number 3. Of course, after we talk about game number 3, there'll be a viewer Q&A. So submit your questions to me on Twitter, at axslav. I answer those during the viewer Q&A period. So first, we're going to start with MVP versus Feast game number 1. And this game, I want to talk about adapting an aggressive opening for defense. If you open aggressively and you're like, wait a minute, I got to defend. How can you make that happen? Executing an aggressive opening. And also the importance of timing in Starcraft 2. So we're going to jump into this replay. And it's going to be starting at the 6th. We'll take a short break here, a little bit of technical problems, but one real quick commercial break. We'll be right back with the show. Welcome back to the Rules of Engagement. I apologize for that technical break there. But we're back right now, and we're getting ready to jump into game number 1 between MVP versus Feast. A couple things I want to point out here, of course, are going to be adapting an aggressive opening for defense, executing an aggressive opening, and the importance of timing in StarCraft 2. We're going to jump right into this replay. We're going to start off at the 6-minute mark, and we're going to take a look at MVP situation, right? So MVP, if you guys are watching the IM tournament or watching actually a lot of professional Terran vs. Protoss, a popular build. It's been, over the last week, it's been losing a little bit of popularity, but at least up until the Winter Championships at Dallas, a very popular build was the Widowmine drop, right? So MVP, of course, the expansion, Command Center slightly later than Agas's expansion because he wants to start his tech going for that Widowmine drop as well. But then what happens, right? If you're a Terran player, you always want to scout, see the Protoss expanded, usually about the 6-minute mark. The SCV gets in there. It sees not only is there no nexus here, but then as it gets even closer into base, it's going to start to see, oh no. So he knows it's a one base all in, right? So right now, even before he sees what's in the base, he knows he has to defend. It could be an Oracle harass, right, with a proxy Stargate, which is why I put the Widowmine there, and his Marines here can move down to defend. It could be DTs. There's a lot of possibilities, right? So he knows he needs to be defensive because even though he had an aggressive opening, this Widowmine drop, his opponent is on one Nexus, which means his opponent's opening is going to be even more aggressive than his is because he, of course, expanded. So he has to go defensively now. And one thing a lot of people make the mistake of, they're in MVP's position. They now knows exactly what's going on. It's a blink all-in, right? Or not all-in, just blink, heavy blink pressure. It's a very aggressive opening. A lot of people make the mistake. They're like, oh crap, I need to make a defense now, and they cancel their buildings. They start trying to build what they think is the best units for defense. That doesn't work. If you need to quickly get up a defense, don't change your build. Just make sure you're producing out of every single production facility you have, right? So keep getting to medevac, it'll still help. Keep getting to Widowmines, they'll still help. Keep getting to Marines. Keep getting to SCVs even, as long as you have money, because they can help as well. And then, of course, get a bunker. But don't change up your build because you don't have time to build new structures, to switch around your add-ons. You just need to keep producing and adopt a defensive posture. And now we're going to take a look at this from Feast's perspective. So MVP knows Feast is on the attack. He's going to get his defense up. You know, he moved, once he realized it was Blink, he moved the Widowmine from the back up to the front. So if you're Feast and you want to think about trying to get in here, do some damage, you're doing your aggressive opening, your Blink Stalker pressure build. You know they're on Widowmines, so he proxied Robo to get the Observer to help snipe these Widowmines. One thing you have to always question yourself is, first, can I kill my opponent outright, right? That's a tough question. Well, he's got some Widowmines, he has the bunker, he's got Marines. Maybe I can. Let me see if I can do that. Okay, with all those SCVs repairing, all these Marines here, I probably can't kill him outright. So the next question that comes to Feast basically is, how much more damage can I do by warping in 400 minerals worth of units versus the Nexus, right? So should I right now, like right a second ago, about 10 seconds ago, we saw he warped in 3 more Stalkers, right? The alternative would have been, or sorry, actually he put down the Nexus, excuse me, he did the other way. The alternative would have been to warp in 3 more Stalkers, right? He has the warp gates, he could have warped in units instead. Now he's got to actually push that SCV way before he can build it. But the idea is, what can do more damage? Can I do more damage to him with the 3 more Stalkers, or with 3 more Stalkers really do a ton of damage here? It's hard to tell. In this position, he says MVP. I know he has a factor because I saw the Widowmine. Once he gets a siege tank up with a bunker, even with 3 more Stalkers, I can't break that. So I'm better off going for the expansion. Of course, MVP being a world-class player delayed it a bit with that SCV. That's going to be very annoying. But that's the question to ask yourself when doing a pressure build. How much damage more can you do with extra units, or should you go and expand and try to do what damage you have with what you have? Now, one thing I want to talk about a little bit is MVP's defense. And one thing that's very important here is look at the way he's positioning his buildings. In fact, that's actually the most important part of your defense as a Terran player. If you only have 1 barracks and 1 factory, and you're defending Blink Stalkers, it's all about the siege tank and/or mines. You will try, I mean, you get a couple mines to slow them down, but you really want to get that siege tank out. And it's very important to place this siege tank in a spot that's, 1, can't be attacked very easily by Stalkers, and 2, can protect as much of your base as possible. You see, that's why this command center is retreating, because it was in a spot the siege tank can protect. So you select your siege tank, right? And then the first thing we say is, okay, from what area can Stalkers attack my siege tank? Well, Stalkers have range 6, so they can probably attack it in an area right here, right? This is like the Stalker range. So I need to place in a location where Stalkers have a hard time getting inside this circle, right? Well, look where he placed it. All these buildings are in the way, right? So Stalkers can't walk towards the siege tank. He can't have a line of Stalkers here going in and attacking that siege tank. He can't, because there's buildings in the way. If he wants to get Stalkers in, he either has to walk through Marines or blink on top of the siege tank. And as soon as Stalkers use their blink, they're going to get shredded by Marines because they won't have that defensive blink. So they can't blink on top of siege tank without insane losses. So you place it where they can't walk up and shoot it. The next thing to consider is, how much can that siege tank protect, right? And that's where you draw the range 13 circle, which is going to be, you know, twice the radius. It's going to be somewhere around here, right? This is really the relevant section, right? So your siege tank is actually a little bit further than that. Don't have a protractor here or anything, just eyeballing it. It's more probably out to around here, but that's the area you can protect, right? So he can protect his forward bunker. That's very important. He can protect all his production buildings. That's next most important. And he can protect some of his worker line. Now, he can't protect stalkers from going into back and shooting his workers over there, but if we jump back into the game, we can think about this for a second. What happens if stalkers go back here, right? This is the only spot stalkers, this spot right here. Stalkers can choose SCVs and not be next to the siege, not be in range of the siege tank. But from here, you can easily trap them with Marines and SCVs. And where can they retreat to? They can only retreat straight up. They have nowhere to defensively blink to, right? They have to retreat back up to here before they can start blinking up. So don't get kind of stuck in this spot, so it's okay to have that a little bit under defended. Now the goal is, though, is the second siege tank. This is a guy that you want to have probably placed where the Marines are, so he can help protect that back route as well. But for that one siege tank, you want exactly where MVP has it. So we're going to go forward here and keep in mind this defensive posture. Keep in mind that the siege tank see the dotted white line. It's exactly right there. The only spot the only thing it can't defend is behind this mineral line from the stalkers. Actually, the starport is a tiny bit too far, so it's going to pull that back. Exactly like that. As soon as he pulls the starport back, nothing else is vulnerable, unless the stalkers want to commit to a section where all of a sudden they have a much difficult time retreating. You can see that as soon as they start committing, the Marines are like, let's see if we can fight them. The big mistake here was the siege tank should have been rallied back and left instead of forward, because that's what gave the stalkers this hot opportunity. They're going to blink in, take out that siege tank, and now they can just run straight back to get outside this other siege tank's range. So that was a little bit of a mistake, and that's going to make his defense a little bit more difficult. But the general idea is you get the siege tank well positioned so it can't die, and then you position your base around it so you can't lose any critical base elements. As you go forward here, you know, Feast, of course, has taken his expansion. He's going to try to do what damage he can, but remember, you see, as soon as he walked into that back quarter, the SCVs get pulled. The Marines, they don't attack move, right? Let's actually we'll bring this up again real quick here. One thing that's very important is notice which way the Marines went. The Marines are right here, right? This is where those Marines were. They didn't move towards where the stalkers were. The stalkers were over here, down a little further. They didn't go this way, right? No, that's bad. Because if the stalkers move up, you can't shoot them. The Marines go straight up here. And the reason why they do that is because now where the stalkers going to go. If the stalkers keep going up, you get a couple Marine volleys. They either have to blink, and then they have no blink cooldown, and you can pin them against the back wall, or they have to walk through your Marine fire, and you still get a couple stalker kills. So either way, it's a great way to attack. Very important, though, remember, pull these SCVs here. Without those SCVs, you get a situation where you're going to start losing Marines. And you never want to lose the Marines against a blink stalker attack, because if you lose too many, you won't have the damage output necessary to push those stalkers back. It's very important to keep your damage output high, so make sure you use SCVs to tank as opposed to Marines until you get an overwhelming number of Marines. So we see that he moves straight up, and the stalkers, they can't use their blink yet because then they'll be stuck with no blink cooldown. So they just have to use a time warp to try to buy some time. They have to basically take damage. He's using a lot of stalkers here, even a siege tank joined the fray. And now once he gets close to the edge, he can start blink microing. But he's already lost a good number of stalkers because of that fact that this back area, as long as Terran responds correctly, it's very dangerous for Protoss to move their stalkers back into. So now going forward, what is the situation we have, right? The attack's over, right? MVP stabilized. I mean, he's working on... The attack can be annoying. In fact, has a nice, really great pick-off on the medevac. So Feast can still do more damage, but there's MVP's pretty much stabilized. He can start to push out and take his expansion. Now he's got a couple of siege tanks. His bio production is going to start ticking out. He's going to start getting Marauders being produced, Marines, etc. So he's in good shape to go forward and expand. Feast, of course, his expansion is about halfway done. If we look at the economic factor, both players have even workers. That, of course, favors Terran with the mules. But what does Feast have advantage, right? Terran has advantage in better economy. Feast has advantage in a stronger army right now, right? Yes, it can't break a defensive position or go toe-to-toe with Marines, because Marines are very cost-efficient in a toe-to-toe battle when there's no area of effect damage. But it's still, you know, MVP can't move out now. He can still be annoying with these stalkers, try to pick off damage where he can. And he basically has more value right now in army. So MVP has more economy, Feast has more army, and Feast has something else as well. If you look at this, his base, he has Twilight Council done, Blink Tech done, starting his first upgrade right now. MVP doesn't even have an eBay, right? So he's going to be significantly behind upgrades, and MVP is not particularly close to mass medevacs. He only has one because they've been getting sniped off. So he's not particularly close to mass medevac production, and he has no ghosts on the way either. Whereas Feast already has a Twilight Tech of Blink Up. He's moments he could easily start charge, easily progress towards the Templar Archives. So what this means is that right now, Feast has a better position to tech going forward to the mid-game army because of upgrades and Twilight Council tech. MVP, while currently his army actually is still slightly smaller, because he has that better economy from the mules, because he has a better economy, that means that he's going to have a stronger army in the next minute or two, right? Because not only does he have more economy, but he has more production, right? He's got 3 barracks, a factory, and a starport done. That's 5 production buildings. Feast only has the 3 gateways. Well, unless you count this row, but that won't last for too much longer. So much more production and economy from MVP going forward. He's going to have a bigger army. Feast has better tech going forward. So what that means is MVP is going to be looking to do a timing over the next few minutes, right? And that's why about a minute and a half ago, we noticed Feast, he knew this was coming, right? So he warped in sentries. Even though it looks like he's the one attacking, he's actually the one who has to defend, right? He's just trying to get damage done with the Stalkers, but over the next minute or two, he's the one that has to defend. Both MVP and Feast noticed, which is why he warped into sentries, so he has plenty of force fields when MVP tries to counterattack. It's also why he's starting to add all the gateways to try to catch up in production. And now the question is, can MVP do damage done before Feast can get Storm out, right? Or before Feast can get additional armor upgrade and an overwhelming number of charge lots. Of course, charge lots with the superior upgrades will work well, but only if you can get a lot out, which right now he doesn't have that production. He's still trying to catch up there. So going forward, it's a matter of buying time, right? We can see their Feast, of course, checking out for draw play, as well as snagging a medevac kill. Every time he snags a medevac kill, that's a big, big blow to MVP's army. Most importantly, to how effective that army will be against charge lots, right? Because Feast has realized at this point there's no time to get Storm out, so he's just going to warp in some Templar for feedbacks and or Archons and try to use charge lots. But he needs to buy more time to get a higher charge or count out. MVP, of course, this timing right here. If we look right now, the army sizes are 800 more minerals for MVP, 300 more gas for Feast. Actually, if you take away all these units, Feast has a bigger army, but it's not that much bigger, and it's still charge lots versus predominantly Marines, which favors the Terran, of course, until the Storm can come out. But every minute that goes by, Feast, one more minute, Feast will get ground attack +2, and all these warp gates will produce a giant slew of Protoss units that MVP couldn't really deal with production-wise, not to mention, in fact, Storm is on the way as well. So right now is the perfect time for MVP because the charge shot count is low, and he can keep getting damage done and get hit this perfect timing before Feast can get that Storm up, get the full Twilight tech upgrades kicking in, and get the overwhelming number of charge shots whereby with a hard time microing against it. So right here is all about the importance of timing. MVP hit this timing perfectly, and as you can see here, too many units, not enough from Feast, and MVP is going to take this one home and win the game. So what's really cool about this game is, one, the way we saw MVP scouted exactly the 6-minute mark, sent the SCV around the edge of the map. Once he knew that there was no expansion, he said, I was planning to do a mine drop, but I need to go defensive. And what a lot of people make the mistake of, the MVP didn't, is to say, I need to go defensive, so they start changing their build, trying to do a defensive build. It's too late for that. If you know you need to get defenses quickly, just crank all your production. Don't build new production or anything like that. Like a new barracks will take a minute to build. It's not going to help you out. It's much better to build SCVs than it is to cut SCVs to get an additional barracks when an attack is imminent. So just crank out production of all your buildings, get additional bunker, get a good defensive setup, place your tanks well, and then move out. Feast recognized he wouldn't end the game because MVP set his defenses up in time, so Feast went ahead and expanded and started teching. He knew that he had to buy some time to get his tech up, so he tried to go warp in sentries early to buy time, and then he was going for Storm. MVP knew he had to kill Feast before Storm, or he didn't have to, but that's when he had a very good timing window to do so. And he went on the attack, and because he had a siege tank as well, the sentries couldn't just buy time with force field. So a really well-played game on both sides. I was really impressed. Take a short break and go on to analyzing game number 2 between these two great players.